All right, Dr. King, I just looked at your series of tweets, and when the verdict came in, you simply tweeted, "Whew." Tell me, how are you feeling a couple of hours removed from the verdict now that you've had a couple of hours to sort of take in everything?
I feel temporarily relieved. I say relieved because I was very concerned and burdened that if this verdict had not returned guilty, I think it would have been worse than we saw last year in the streets of across the United States of America. Plus, the burden that so many people have been carrying for years, decades, millennials. I mean, it feels like a millennial. We know it's not, but centuries with the Black community of not being treated with dignity and not being treated fairly and justly. And so I actually just cried when I heard the verdict. I'm sad that our nation is at a place where these kind of things are happening. You know, it's unfortunate for Chauvin's family. It's very unfortunate for George Floyd's family. We should not live in a nation where young children have to witness this kind of thing and experience this. I know that from going through it with my own father's assassination. It is very traumatic. And, you know, even though in our case, it's a long story and can't talk about that now, because I still think that we never dealt with the right person. This, you know, not being able to experience her father again, that is so unfortunate. But this is a turning point, I believe. It's, as everybody said, it's a measure toward justice. I just feel that God understood that we needed this. We couldn't bear anymore. You know, it just so that's where my relief comes from. But it's temporary because we have a lot of work to do to dismantle systemic racism, institutional racism, because if we don't deal with these systems and structures that continue to oppress and continue to create, you know, unjust outcomes, then this is going to continue to happen over and over again. So we have to remain vigilant. As my mother says, struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. So we can't let up, you know, but we can at least have a sigh of relief that this is a glimpse of what holding law enforcement accountable looks like. This can happen. You know, it's almost been taboo to think about it, that this was even possible. But this has shown us that we can have systems of accountability in our criminal justice system.
What do you want people to take away from today? Because when we think about, you always talk about on social media about people improperly invoking your father's name into current affairs of the state of our country. What do you want people to take away from this moment?
You know, I just think about what my father said in his I Have a Dream speech. We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Again, this is a single act of accountability in a broader system of injustice and systemic racism. And while we thank God that there was a guilty verdict, we cannot be satisfied until we have complete and true justice fairly in America, that the scales of justice are balanced in America, especially for Black and brown lives and bodies.
Do you feel like this has given new energy or given new perspective? Because you said God knew that we couldn't bear
He he knew we couldn't bear anymore. I mean, today proved to me that statement that I heard about growing up in church, that I preached about. He knows just how much he can bear. He knew that we couldn't bear anymore. There have been people, literally sacrificing their daily lives in the struggle for justice and equity, and over and over again in the streets of America. The people, those of us that are working on a lot of different fronts, and the movement for freedom and justice needed a victory, and it's not a victory. And I want to say this carefully because I know this is a delicate moment. I'll just say it this way: this is a victory for moving in the right direction, because it looked like we were just going backwards totally. And there was no possibility of us moving towards the direction of seeing things in a fair and just light and having a justice system that finally says, no, this person must be held accountable, even if they do wear the blue uniform. And so, God, thank God. I mean, I'm thanking God for that. But again, the tragedy is that we are still dealing with these kinds of things in our nation. We can do better if we just would have the will to do better. But we have a lot of work to do. I mean, because as I said, yes, racism is in the heart of people. And we have to continue to do the work of dismantling systems of racism, and still, like we do through our work in nonviolence, still working on the hearts of people to be transformed into vessels of true love, and that will eventually lead, obviously, to true peace, which is not just the absence of tension, as Daddy said, but the presence of justice.
I think it says a lot that with all of these cases that we've seen over the years, and a lot of people have a lot of them imprinted on their hearts, and they can all remember one specific one that they really were touched by. I think it says a lot that today can't really be looked at as a full victory, and you can't truly exhale, and that this feeling of even a slight victory was so rare that you can't fully celebrate. It's not a celebration because
it's mixed feelings.
It's a rarity. Yeah. A lot of people are feeling two different things. If you wanted to feel anything close to celebratory, your heart makes you pull back a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, there's a hesitation, a reservedness, because it's so much bigger, it's so much broader, it's so much more depth to what we have to do to dismantle these systems that continue to oppress and exploit people and treat people with a lack of dignity and respect. Definitely. But also at the same time, as I said, if it had turned out the other way, oh my God. I mean, I didn't sleep well over the last several days. I've just been restless because I was very concerned, extremely concerned. But then there was a little bit of me that said, God, you know.
Yeah.
And
I see how much on your timeline that you reference Gianna, and I understand parallels there that you see with losing your father at a young age as she did. And today I sort of look at her words as very prophetic.
Oh yeah,
changed the world.
Yeah, and it's not over. I mean, there has been somewhat of a turning point in our country in terms of a higher level of consciousness around issues of social justice. We cannot deny that there has been a heightened level of that. But it's a lot of factors that converge together for that to take place. And, I first give, thanks to God Almighty, but in the earthly realm, there are just so many people. And especially, and I have to say, the generations that are behind me. I thank God for the energy, for the persistence, for the stick to itness, for the, that whole spirit that my father talked about, why we can't wait, the fierce urgency of now, not later. Now, this must be the case.
There's something different. They are something different.
Yes, very much so. But we really do have to focus and use the strategies that nonviolence gives us, meaning using nonviolence as a strategy to continue to dismantle the systemic racism. I cannot say that enough, because it is throughout all of our systems. But this is to me, when this all happened last May, with George Floyd, I kept feeling like this is one of those, obviously it was one of those lean in moments, but it is a moment where we have one of the greatest opportunities to really get things right. I don't know. I got so many emotions going on at one time, as you can imagine. We've got to.
It seems like we can all that this felt different from the moment the protest started through today. You just always knew that this felt a little bit different. This was going to tip the scales in one way or the other after years of feeling like it was just going back.
Yeah. And it does feel like it's that tipping point. But again, as we all say, this is just a measure, a measure of justice. It's not. I don't even know if we can fully call it justice. I think it's accurate to say, as everybody has, that it's really the accountability. That's all that anyone has ever asked for, that people be held accountable for their actions. And it just seems like when it comes to Black and brown lives, there are all these excuses.
It's not to kill them in the first place. It's also too.
Yeah. So, we will continue to await the sentencing. And regardless of what happens, we have to continue to do the work of advancing justice, equity, and peace, and the work of creating, or restoring. I won't even say restoring, of becoming more humane in our world. And that's again, as I said, that's the work that we're involved in, and that's why we have a Be Love campaign to try to help people understand that power that my father was operating out of, that brought transformation, in our Southern systems, that wiped out de jure, legalized segregation, was the power and the strength of love to stand up strong and to face and resist and not cooperate with evil. We have to continue to move forward nonviolently, not cooperating with evil. This was an evil act. But we as we not cooperate with evil, at the same time, we have to do what he talked to us about, which was, he said that true justice, or should I say justice at its best, is love correcting everything that stands against love. So there are many policy issues that we've got to implement that correct some things. As we know, the HR 1 and HR 4 to correct what happened, and it won't fully correct, but it certainly will help to offset some of what happened here with SB 202 in other states across the nation that are passing these legislation that, voter suppression legislation. So it's a lot of work. We got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But today,
it's so many layers. You could just go. It just goes.
But I mean,
so many legs.
Yes, but I do think that people are relieved that we are not continuing in the vein of just denying over and over again the opportunity for families personally to have their measure of justice in court. Mm-hmm. When we have these, excessive use of forces that end up in death for so many Black and Brown people over and over again. And so, I'm in prayer. I'm in prayer for their family, for all of the families, because this is so much bigger than even George Floyd. Mm-hmm. There are so many families out there that they still haven't gotten.
Yeah.
Any form of what we call justice, with their particular situations. So I pray for them. I pray for their continual healing and their strength, and that something will intervene, that they can get justice and be the situation be dealt with fairly. But it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
People just have to, sort of take in the day and take in everything, because it does give you flashbacks to last May. And I think today is just a day for the nation to sort of just, exhale as much as they feel comfortable doing, and just know that there is not reason for today to look like what we saw last summer. So I think we could all be relieved with that too. But
exactly.
Yeah, we thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We're going to get this all put together for our 11 p.m. newscast. And we thank you for, always being available and extending yourself to us and giving us your insight.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. You have a great night.
Thank you so much. You do the same.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.